What's up, my fellow creatives? Welcome back to my channel where I talk about movies, music, the impact art has on the world, and so much more. Today I'm going to be reviewing Fantastic Four: First Steps. Alright, so I just got out of seeing Fantastic Four: First Steps, and I know the question everybody has with superhero movies and Marvel movies in general is Marvel back? The answer is yes. Now, personally, I thought they were back with Thunderbolts, but this movie, I feel like, falls in line more with what people are thinking when they ask, is Marvel back? It follows some more of the similar kind of tones and pacing of what are considered some of the best Marvel movies, but it definitely stands on its own too. And that's one of the first things I want to get into. The tone and the visuals of this movie are awesome. I love the retro futuristic look they went for with this film, and it's done incredibly well. There's not one side that takes over more. It feels like a coherent world, and it feels like something that's actually lived in, not just like a stage that was set up so they could film the movie. Now, when it comes to the Fantastic Four, this is actually the first Fantastic Four film I've seen. And that's simply because the ones in the 90s and early 2000s, I was too young to really get into them. I was a lot more of a Spider-Man guy at that time. And the one from a couple years ago, I've heard is trash, so I haven't watched it. But this was really my introduction to the Fantastic Four as a group, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think they have one of the best team dynamics from the get-go, and obviously, as the movie establishes, and as you've seen in the trailers as well, they are a team already. It's not something like the Avengers or Thunderbolts where they have to come together and learn to work with each other. I think that's great too, but in a movie that's very much pushing the family dynamic and how cohesive they are, it was refreshing to see this take on a group that's already together and just kind of jump into the movie. Now, something I really liked about this movie is the way it was set up. They have said in a lot of the press interviews that this was not going to be an origin film because we've already done that. People are sick of origin films. They don't want to see more. And while it wasn't an origin film, they did cover some origin pieces here and there that I feel like gave enough information for people like me who are not really familiar with the characters, but also didn't drag out this thing where it's like, okay, let's see them get their powers. Let's see them learn their powers. Okay, now that we're an hour and 15 minutes into the movie, we can really get into the movie. No, it was pretty much go, go, go right away, and I really appreciate that. The pacing was great in this film. Now, when it comes to the cast, I think this was a great cast. And again, I don't really have much to compare it to, as I haven't seen the other films, haven't read the comics, but I think everybody really shined in their role, and there was no character that really took over as the like the main character of the story. I think sometimes when you have team dynamic stories, you can have a leader, or even if they're not the leader, a character that shines above the rest, and it kind of makes the other members in the team seem like secondary characters. But in this film, luckily, that did not happen. Pedro Pascal was great as Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, and I really loved the different ranges of emotion we saw with this character. I'm not going to get into any spoilers with any characters or in this review in general, but you see him go through the very confident side and then the more emotional side. And I think he did a great job acting in this. Pedro Pascal is one of those actors that I think can just really take on any role. And I know there were a lot of people that were worried about him taking on this role since he is one of the top guys in Hollywood right now, and it seemed like the studio might have just chosen him because he's a hot name. However, I think he really took this role and did his thing with it. And by saying that, I'm meaning he's not just being Pedro Pascal in this role. He really is taking the role and performing it. Like, he is the character, and I believed him as the character. Vanessa Kirby as the Invisible Woman, Sue Storm, was also great. Emotionally, she was right up there with Pedro, and I really liked the dynamic of her in the movie because she seemed like the one that would kind of ground the situation and listen to all the members in the team and kind of hold people together. A lot of the promo was saying that she is the heart of the movie, and I think that is exactly right. She is the character that can kind of get through to anyone, look at the situation as a whole from a more balanced mindset, and holds the group and the movie together in doing so. That now brings us to, and I'm going to have my phone up for this, Ebon Moss-Bachrach. I hope I'm saying his name right. He played Ben Grimm, the Thing. And I really like the way this character was done. And obviously, for the majority of the movie, he is CG, so you don't get the more human emotional expressions, but the acting was great. You can hear in his voice the different inflections that he uses to get emotions across, and I think the CG was done incredibly well too. You can see all of the different movements on his face and really get the emotional dynamics. I would say it's similar to Korg in Thor Ragnarok, though I would say the Thing is a lot more expressive. They definitely still nailed the expression through the rocks, and I think it was really done well. He's definitely the character I would have liked to see a little bit more, but I think we're going to explore him later on down the line, and it also makes sense for him to not necessarily be the focus when you see the movie. Now that brings me to my favorite member of the Fantastic Four, and that is Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, the Human Torch. Now, I'm a little biased with this. I really like Joseph Quinn in Stranger Things, and as soon as I heard that he was going to be playing the Human Torch, I was like, okay, I know I love the actor, so I'm going to like this character. And I did. Johnny Storm is definitely the comedic relief, but he's not just the comedic relief. If you watch the trailers, it kind of seems like they're setting him up to be like the jokier character, and while I think he absolutely does take on that role, he has a lot of development and other characteristics to Johnny Storm that I was happy to see. And I was happy to see that because it didn't make it seem like each character in the team was there for, you know, the smarts, the hearts, the jokes, the emotional aspects. It seemed like they all had emotional range, and it would really depend on what was happening in the scene as to when those strong points came through. Now, when it comes to the villains of the film, you have Silver Surfer and Galactus. Silver Surfer played by Julia Gardner, and Galactus played by Ralph Ineson. Now, both of these characters were great, and again, without going into spoilers, I feel like these are some of the villains where you really get the scope of their powers off the bat, and it's not this thing that necessarily builds and you learn over time. That can be great for some villains, but I think in a world that's set up where the Fantastic Four are the saviors, they're known as the heroes, they've been doing this for years, it really is just great jumping into also having villains that are already set up. You know, we didn't have to have an origin story for the team, and we didn't have to have an origin story for the villains. We didn't have to take up a bunch of time. And like I said, their power sets are shown off incredibly well. I think some of the best visual effects, if not the best visual effects in the film, are with Silver Surfer. I absolutely loved her scenes and seeing the way different visual effects played off of each other, such as her and Johnny, as we saw in the trailer. And then also Galactus's effects were great too. When I think of Galactus and seeing some of the comic art go around when this film was announced and he was announced as the villain, I was thinking, all right, this could look good or it could look really stupid. And I think they found the perfect balance of being accurate to the look of the character, but also giving him enough of a difference to feel larger than life, aside from him literally being larger. And it made him a menacing villain. So I think they did a really good job with those two characters as well, balancing them into the film and incorporating the different powers they had going up against the Fantastic Four. When it comes to complaints about the film, I really did not have any, aside from I would have liked to see the world be fleshed out a little bit more. I think they do a great job of it in the Baxter Building, where the Fantastic Four are the majority of the time when they're not fighting. but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more world building and to just kind of get the aesthetic, because there are some scenes. This is set in New York, for those of you who didn't know. There are some scenes where it very much looks futuristic, and then there are other scenes where it looks like New York. And I think it would have been cool to kind of get a broader scope to see, like, okay, maybe this part of the city is more futuristic leaning, maybe this part is like the poorer side where they haven't necessarily caught up as much. So I would have liked to have seen that, but that's really just a minor nitpick and a personal love I have for seeing these different variations of worlds on the big screen. But yeah, aside from that, I really did not have any complaints about this movie. Again, I love the pacing, I love the casting, I love the characters, the story, everything about it, really. Again, Marvel is back, for those of you who are worried about that. And that's about all I have for the review. So what would I rate this movie? I would give it a 8.5 out of 10. And that's a really good rating from me. I really do not rate a lot of things a 10. If you want some context, The Dark Knight's a 10. Avengers Infinity War is a 10. But yeah, that's an incredibly high rating from me. I really enjoyed this film. I will be seeing it again, and I am very, very excited for the things that it is setting up. Thanks for watching the video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Comment down below if you saw the Fantastic Four, what you thought about it, and I will see you in the next video.